Live.
This is Discover Crypto. We had an intro, but today we're going to talk about Bitcoin manipulation. There's a lot of manipulation that is happening in the charts here. I'm here with TJ. We're going to dive right into the news. TJ, I identified yesterday the new 9 a.m. manipulation, and now it might be still playing true. We'll see if we create a lower high. If we do create a lower high, I'm convinced State Street has moved their 10 a.m. manipulation to 9 a.m. But we're going to talk about the final capitulation for Bitcoin. And everybody hit the like button on the way in, and maybe I will FUD your favorite altcoin, but only I will not if you hit enough like buttons here. TJ, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here and enjoy. I'm actually getting real comfortable in these lower price ranges and starting to enjoy it. Still didn't get, I was trying, I think yesterday was when I popped in, I had an order at like 65 and change and it missed by this much. And so, yeah, I'm really curious to hear everybody's thoughts on if they think we're going to go much lower. To me, this is max buying opportunity zone. So I'm trying to not get greedy, probably even just put it in. It doesn't really matter if it's 65, 66, 67 to me. But I know there's a lot of people, and part of the stuff we're going to look at today, looking like we could be going lower. So that's my big decision right now. Do I just smash by the rest of my cash? I've got, some six figures, a couple different ways that I'm looking to get in. I can try to time the absolute bottom, but I'm also hesitant to not be greedy because this feels bottomish to me.
And speaking of trying to time the bottom, we do have a short-term trend line. This is going to be a very short-term situation here. We're talking about Wednesday, 10 a.m. And so you can see it rolling into Thursday around 10 a.m. So we got about a 24-hour trend line here that the bulls are going to need to try to maintain here. Otherwise, we start entertaining the other trend line, and that's going to be a trend line to the downside. And when you're looking at that target, I'm not saying guaranteed, but if we do lose this level, we could be looking at Bitcoin hitting your levels, TJ. We might see a $64,000 Bitcoin in the short term, especially as we headed to a weekend, and weekends have lower liquidity, meaning it doesn't take as much to push that price down or to pump that price to the upside here. Are you feeling bullish or bearish heading into the weekend, TJ?
That's a great question because, yeah, you're right. Low liquidity weekends are much easier to move the price either direction. I was kind of expecting and hoping for more action last weekend. I was, kind of anticipating, there was geopolitical tensions rising and maybe somebody would use that as an opportunity to push the price down a little bit more. It didn't play out per se. We've kind of been ranging since that last, wick down to 60K. So this weekend, I don't know, it feels quiet, which a lot of times quiet means, something's going to happen. But probably, I guess if I had to make a decision, I'd say uneventful weekend. But I'm hoping, again, that we get some of those lower levels. I don't know if I'm going to be that lucky.
And you know what, folks? There might be a argument that the bull flag is no longer playing out. I'm about to measure this. So bull flags, traditionally speaking, when the flag goes down 50% or more, it is no longer considered a bull flag. You consider the flag has then broken down. And if you think of that gas station in your town that has the gigantic flag. The bigger the flag, the more it's going to droop. So at a certain point, you no longer have a bullish structure. Now, we do have a bear flag, which is the larger macro move. Within this larger macro move, there is the micro move. So let's see here. Does this bull flag, I'll go ahead and draw it up for you before we end up measuring this. Does the bull flag fall more than 50%? We're going to go ahead and draw out the flag here. You see it right there. So what are we looking at? Does it hit our levels? Does it render itself obsolete? Does this hit 50%? Not bad right there. All right, so we're looking at 16.74. We'll say 17%. So if this wick right there is 8.5% or more, it's not a wick. What are we looking at there? 8.5. It's right there on the cusp, TJ. So honestly, you could say close enough to a 50% drawdown. Maybe it's within that realm. Maybe you can make an argument because the wicks did not, or the body's closed above these wicks here, obviously. So we're on the precipice on whether or not this is going to be bullish. I could go ahead and play out the bullish chart here, the bullish scenario. If we do end up getting this flagpole to break to the upside, we're back in the 80s. We are back in the 80s, so that does turn a little bit bullish. But speaking of bullish, speaking of bearish here, let's hit refresh. Where are the altcoins at? Because we know Bitcoin's slightly up, but Bitcoin and ETH are now both up 1.9%. XRP with the 3% pump there. Wait till I show you the XRP chart. Our video last night played out perfectly, everybody. Dogecoin with the pump here. I'll be looking to exit this coin. I got a small bag I've been waiting to dump here. And Cardano, a lot of people are liking what Charles Hoskinson had to say at Consensus. They're saying, all right, we're finally have some bullish news for ADA. And if you missed it, let's just say it was a wild consensus. We're going to talk about Cardano. We got Cardano charts. We got Ethereum charts.
I just love Charles. Charles is funny. And I'm curious in the chat. I know he's a pretty polarizing person. Do you love Charles? Do you love the kind of stuff he does, or are you not here for it? So like love or hate, I guess. I mean, I know hate's a strong word, but tell us in the chat, you love him or do you hate him? Whether you love or hate Cardano, that's a whole totally different discussion. But Charles, to me, not only, intelligent, really knows his stuff, understands the space extremely well, but also not afraid to poke fun, not afraid to, I think he has a great sense of humor, basically. Okay, so DCA and Prey says he's a fool. The very next comment says he's the best founder. Yeah, just let us know what are your thoughts on him, because I find him very fun, very entertaining. I guess I see what I would aspire to be. If I had billions of dollars and tons of money in crypto and have launched multiple different, arguably most successful EVM type chains out there, I could see myself being a lot like Charles. He's fun. He's interesting.
Yeah,
he's definitely not boring.
Lost $3 billion in unrealized losses there. So, let them have a little fun here, folks. All right, let's look at the big movers. I do want to look at Hype real quick, though. Chainlink up 3.5%. Hype 8%. I am wishing I allocated more into this altcoin. I keep telling you folks, this is the last altcoin that I have made a purchase. So my last two purchases have been Hype and Bitcoin. I am bullish on Hype, everybody. But let's look for the big gainers. Pippin, wow, breaking into the top 100. Aster with almost a 10% pump. I'll probably be looking to dump some of this in the 80s. We have Pumped Up Fun. That one's kind of trying to get into the green here for the week and for the month. And World Liberty Fi, they just did a big announcement, TJ. World Liberty Fi is now announcing they're going to do remittance payments. Kind of bad news for XRP.
Yeah, I mean, this has been one of my bigger challenges with XRP, is just the competition. Nothing really to do with the XRP itself, but there's going to be a ton of competition, whether you're calling stable coins competition or remittances from other projects as competition. It's very political. And to me, I don't have an edge in that space of who's going to win, whether it's Ripple and Brad Garlinghouse or Trump or the White House or, Circle and USDC or some of these other, a lot of the stable coins obviously are doing cross-border type stuff. So yeah, that's part of why the payments space, you can go down the list, whether it's Dash, you want privacy, you want, Decred back in the day, all sorts of different things that were out there to do pay. You can throw Litecoin in the mix if you want. It's tons of people are competing for that space, and who wins is going to be a lot more to do with politics than anything else, in my opinion. And so for that's why I kind of just stayed away from payments coins in general, much more focused on layer ones. And now, as you guys know, I'm just obsessed with DeFi. That has all my love and all my attention is in DeFi. And I don't know if that's ever going to change. Part of what I'm working on all the time, part of why I'm not on the show as much, is we're working on a private DeFi fund that we're setting up. So more details on that to come in the future, because running these liquidity pools, it's kind of like the news from BlackRock coming in yesterday on Uniswap. I mean, the fact that you no longer need a market maker and anybody can participate in being a market maker, to me, is revolutionary technology in finance, and is one of the most fun things, with almost like endless opportunities just in that one sector of crypto of running, DeFi liquidity. So that's where my love is.
We were asking, what do we feel about Avantis, and what do you mean by remittance payments? Well, we'll do Avantis first since we got it on the screen. Avantis, if you just kind of look at the recent price action, it just keeps going lower and lower and lower. I would want to wait for an uptrend before I would turn bullish on this. And for that, I would look for probably the 21-day EMA to flip as support. And so you might not catch the very pico bottom, but you will go broke trying to catch a bottom. You cannot catch a bottom. The only people who catch bottoms are liars. So just remember that, folks. And what was one more? There's another one. I was
remittances. What's a remittance?
Remittance payments, folks. It's going to be a payment from one country to another, typically, from an immigrant. So they'll work in one country. They'll send a remittance payments to their home country. It's called remittances. XRP kills the remittance payments game in Southeast Asia. It's a high primary driver of some of their revenue for that continent. And now there's just going to be a little bit more competition with World Liberty Fi. They're going to be jumping into the mix there. I do want to highlight one last thing before we move into the top story here, which is going to be Bitcoin's final drop. That is Uniswap. Uniswap now down 12%, despite BlackRock publicly stating that they are buying Uni tokens. Yes, literally, one of the world's most powerful financial institutions announced yesterday. Not only are they partnering with Uniswap, but they're buying an undisclosed amount of tokens. And if you look at the 24-hour, totally erased the gains, TJ. This is why we can't have nice things. We get some good news like this, and just, I don't know if this is paper hands, if this is lack of conviction, but everybody's looking for that quick flip, maybe the shorter attention spans. No one can even hold an altcoin for like a month, let alone 12 months, or let alone for a cycle.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. I mean, Uniswap is basically, I mean, I think these prices are close to like 2020 airdrop type prices. I mean, it's about as beat down as it's ever been. And similarly, there's some competition here, but Uni, when it comes to decentralized finance, is far and away the largest leader. Uniswap, Aerodrome. You guys know I love Aerodrome. They've got the Coinbase support behind it. But to me, this is, typical bear market type activity where good news, that's one of the ways you tell a bear market, where good news doesn't really have a huge price impact and bad news has a massive price impact. And then kind of inverse when you're in a bull market, bad news doesn't seem to phase it and good news pumps it higher. So this, to me, is very, apparent that we're in a bear market here. The question is, how much longer? Do we move up quickly or do we move up slowly? We're seeing signs of apparently Xi Jinping and Trump getting together in April. That
I got that pulled up. Yeah, that's
that
a
could
little
be
bit
big.
of the bullish winds that are going to be coming our way. We're going to talk about the shifting tides and weather after we do this bearish statement here. But signing over to the DZ Pool, staking their Cardano to DEEZY. Appreciate that. We're going to get the Discover Crypto ADA over there pretty shortly. I was talking to our accountant, our master of coin, about it this week. Maybe we'll execute that the next 24 hours or so. Let's get into our top story. That's going to be Standard Chartered calling out a Bitcoin bottom, saying we got one more leg to go. If you don't know who Standard Chartered is, this is a large international banking group headquartered in London. 54 of the most dynamic markets here. They're in Asia, Africa, Middle East, Europe, and the Americas. Founded 170 years ago, and they got 3 different branches: corporate and institutional banking, wealth and retail banking, and ventures. So basically large corporations, wealthy individuals, and then they bet on companies here. Over 1,000 branches. So this is not your rinky-dink, go to the bank, there's a little ATM, maybe they got a couple ATMs in some grocery stores. No, this is a large multinational corporation, a conglomerate, a behemoth. This is a very, very important bank. This is not like your community bank here. Standard Chartered, this bank is now warning of a final crypto capitulation before we get a recovery. This is in a note to the clients from the head of digital assets research at the bank. He said Bitcoin could fall to 50,000 and a $1,400 ETH in the coming months. We are going to chart ETH in a little bit. However, Kendrick, he framed the projected lows as potential long-term entry points rather than signs of structural breakdown. So he's saying this is going to be your entry point. This is going to be pretty much a bottom. Looking at this to be the final leg for the bear market, he emphasized that the downturn differs from the previous bear markets, particularly the last one, as it's not involved a major platform collapse or a systemic failure. He argued that this resilience reflects a maturing asset class. So we're getting a bear market without major platform collapses. Well, that takes us to our next story. We got a major platform collapse, everybody. Now, this is breaking news. There's not a lot of information on this. This is from the Wall Street Journal 21 hours ago. Company is called Blockfills, and they primarily work with the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. They are based in Chicago. They're backed by some pretty large players, also backed by CME Group here. They decided to close client deposits and withdrawals. So we have this large institutional crypto trading fund that is pausing withdrawals, and they paused it when Bitcoin fell below 60K. The suspension remains in place. They said they handle a bunch of trading volumes in 2025, $60 billion worth, but they're still operating with closing and opening positions in spot and derivatives tradings. They're just not allowing their clients to withdraw their funds. They said they're working tirelessly to bring this matter to a conclusion. We'll continue to regularly update our clients as development warrants. And TJ, this is on the backdrop of what we're seeing with Hong Kong trading firms, hedge funds saying they're severely underwater on their ETH, Bitmine's underwater on their ETH. Now we got this large American institutional trading client. They're going underwater potentially here. We don't know for sure. I mean, is it going to get worse? Because Celsius collapsed in June. We wouldn't see a bottom until November of that year. 4 months later, 5 months later.
Yeah, and I would argue that some of this is still the fallout from 1010. So we are kind of getting into that where, yeah, you've got the big moment, October 10th, when everything dropped dramatically and we saw liquidity disappear from all sorts of different altcoins, massive liquidations across the board. And we've been seeing some fallout from that floating to the surface, like a lot of the ones you just mentioned. So to me, I don't think and you could argue, major is one of those weird words where it's like what kind of volume, how much system, the big thing that happened after Celsius was the contagion in the cross lending from Celsius because it really started with Three Arrows Capital and Terra Luna to Celsius to then FTX. And then there was so much intertwined with FTX that everybody started unwinding their positions all the way from Gemini and their lending platform. Almost anybody with major stake in crypto had some tentacles being touched by FTX. So I don't think we're anywhere close to anything like that. And I do think we have seen most of that stuff wash through. What do you got?
What's ironic about that was tentacles touching was one of the most searched terms at FTX.
That's a good one.
Especially the ones near the beanbag chair, those PCs, sticky keyboard. Anyways, let's go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to cover this because we've been doing this we've been playing a lot with Claude and learning some new stuff. This is we've been doing these internal reports here, and there's some pretty interesting things in today's breakdown, and we're gonna cover a lot more. But the big thing for me, and Drew's probably doing a video on this tonight, is the extreme fear. If you're looking at the fear and greed index, we've got one of the lowest rankings we've ever had. And the other thing I wanted to mention was the jobless claims that came in very low, or meaning more or high, I guess, more jobless than expected. The initial claims came in at 227, above the 222 forecast. And this is, the main thing to, from just John Templeton, the time of maximum pessimism is the best time to buy, and the time of maximum optimism is the best time to sell. That obviously plays in with the fear and greed index. So I just wanted to, mention this. This is a pretty substantial thing. I think this is part of what caused some of the pullbacks recently. And I don't see this stuff getting a lot better in the near term. The question, to kind of your point, is when we see these things, is somebody gonna use that to put their thumb on the scale down and really get that capitulation event? I think there was something, Fidelity kind of very interestingly, obviously larger than Standard Chartered, but has the same kind of weight as Standard Chartered. They're talking about that 65K being an extremely attractive buy point. I know I'm seeing that from a lot of the traditional wealth advisors and wealth clients out there that have been interested in Bitcoin and digital assets for a long time. They are actually moving in with size now. People that, not people buying $1,000 or $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, people buying tens of millions, 20 million, because it's just, we need 5% of my portfolio in Bitcoin now. Sure, slide $10 million over there. We're starting to see that. So if you guys are interested in getting this report, this is why I brought it up, because we've been using this report internally for a few weeks now. It's getting better and better. I guess give us say yes in the chat if you want us to start distributing this report and you'd be interested. We've got an
start
email
with the
list.
Discord, and as we continue to tune, and
we'll roll it out. But if you're interested in seeing this report, and I'll just give it a little bit. I mean, it basically breaks down the top headlines. We're going to talk about some of this stuff later in the show. Goldman Sachs crypto holdings you guys talked about yesterday. So it's pretty interesting. It kind of covers the top headlines. It gives good breakdowns, and it's it gives you your key takeaways here at the end.
You see that breaking? There actually is breaking news. I did double check because I saw that report there. Scroll up right there. Russian memo proposes dollar return and partnership pitch to Trump. This one is going to be big. I did do a little bit of research into this, folks. It does look like they might actually be doing this. It's going to be part of a broad-reaching deal that's going to hinge upon the Ukrainian war coming to an end. And with that, there's going to be an on-ramp for Russia to re-engage with the world economy. This is part of the Biden, maybe let's try blanking on the year here, but they seized Russian assets, basically iced them out, locked the doors on them. They're like, hey, my cash is inside there. Like, oh, sorry, I don't know what to say. Now, more interesting, do they unfreeze the funds? I don't know. They probably already spin it, TJ. They already spin it. I don't know what they're, but
no, it'll be, yeah, this is all coming together at this, you've got this board of peace going on when, they're supposedly invited. That's what, it's, the major players, US, Israel, China, and then Israel, because they're Israel, seems to always have some kind of say in what's going on. So we've got all that going on right now, March, April. Obviously, midterms this year. There's incentive to try to pump markets before midterms. So that's the big question in my mind. It's not as much about how much lower we go, because I feel like you guys have heard me say this all the time. We're near a bottom, and you need to be buying near a bottom and selling near a top. So if you're thinking about buying, again, don't get too greedy. Now is the time to buy. I bought, a couple times in the 60s. And my question now is, do I just like eat the rest of my cash in at this level and don't care if it's 67 or 65? Yeah. And you're saying, wait, a lot of people
lower.
We'll look at that. We'll look at that. But my point is, the question you need to be asking yourself is, how much time do you have? You might have 2 to 4 months, left. We might still see, again, my prediction is we're going to see upward momentum this summer, into, especially by the time we get a new Fed chair, especially once the big beautiful bill kicks in, they start printing all that money. Or, the traditional 4-year cycle says October,
or watch this video from 2 days ago. I literally asked the question, how long will the bear market last? But I'm not going to front run, folks. You got to go watch that, folks. Yeah. You got to go watch that.
I do know you and I are pretty much on the same timeline for the most part.
8,000 days.
8,000 days.
That's what it's going to feel like.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how much it actually is. You have to watch the video for that one, though. All right, folks, we do have, there's also a little bit more information has come out from the hedge fund that blew up. It does seem like the hedge fund bought a lot of cheap. We kind of talked about this. Just want to reiterate. BlackRock Bitcoin ETF puts. Remember, you call someone up and you put someone down. So they're betting on Bitcoin to be down with this BlackRock financial instrument. And because volatility was at historic lows. And so when you have that big gap, your big gamma, that's when you're able to basically make a lot of profits. Or if you're trying to make money off of that, fees go up, then you got to close these positions. But basically, they bought a whole bunch of these BlackRock ETF bets on it going down. They pushed it down overnight and on weekends when liquidity was thin. They would then force the dealers to dump their ETFs, which then cascaded the price further into their puts. And then it would cycle repeat weekly. And then later, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they launch new expiries, each leg down, giving the fund more profits to roll into the next layer. And then that's why it looks like Bitcoin underperformed the S&P 500 by 49%. Just over a few months, 4 months there, and got a 30% drop there, and potentially caused the blow up of some of these Hong Kong-based funds. But we're looking at a lot of issues. But now I got to throw it to TJ. There's something here that I hate, and that's going to be MicroStrategy. Michael Saylor, he's eyeing more. Well, actually, the CEO is Fong Li. Michael Saylor is the chairman. So the CEO, under the direction of the chairman, is eyeing more preferred stock to fund Bitcoin buys. So Strategy said they're not going to sell their common stock anymore. They're not going to sell their preferred stock. And this is how they're going to acquire more Bitcoin. And so they're going to further lean on their preferred stock sales to acquire this, shifting their strategy from the common stock selling strategy. Stretch is Strategy's preferred stock. This was launched in July, and it aimed at giving an annual dividend yield of 11%. It's their fourth perpetual preferred offering, launched to finance their Bitcoin purchases. It's an alternative to diluting their shares. Now, there you can see how serious he is about this. Now, reclaimed its par value finally yesterday, first time since mid-January. So short, about a month. The stock had dipped below 94. It was $93 and change when Bitcoin crashed under 60K, but is now trading back at 100. This is the price Strategy designates as its minimum, and they can now offer more shares to fund more Bitcoin purchases. And let me just say, I hate it, TJ. I hate it. But you said you kind of like this. I think you like this dividend.
I'm curious as to why, because I think it's great. I love this STRC is one of the more interesting things going on in crypto right now. So what is it you don't like?
All right. So do you remember about 2 months ago, they did their cash reserves, and they say, hey, folks, we don't have to sell Bitcoin. In fact, we got about 30 months. They say we got 30 months worth of payments.
Right.
When they issue more shares, 30 months shrinks.
Okay.
And so it reduces the health of that yield.
Yeah, I don't. What does that have to do with STRC?
So you sell more of these. So now you got to give more of this 11% yield while you're not adding the commiserate amount of money because they're using this cash to buy Bitcoin.
That's not really how it works, because STRC, what they're doing where they're paying their yield, it's called a return of capital. And so the reason.
How do they get that capital?
You pay for it. So like you're selling STRC. I give you $10,000. You take that, you give me that same $10,000 back at 11% a year over time.
No,
yeah, that's
they're buying Bitcoin with it. So
sure,
So the 10,000 is no longer there, is my point.
Right.
Because they bought Bitcoin. And so now you got to give up more yield. So 30 months becomes 29 months, becomes 28 months. It shrinks and shrinks and shrinks.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so you're basically saying you don't like the entire strategy business model of selling equity to buy Bitcoin.
Well, they're selling preferred stocks, which you could make an argument whether or not that's equity. It's not the common shareholder stock, but now we're really getting into the weeds
it's
here.
not the common stock. And they're basically, the main difference is they're using that as their main engine to buy Bitcoin, and it's a much risk adjusted, it's a much better thing for them because it's fixed. And even the article, you can tell, I mean, if you go look at let's see, the STRC chart, sure, it dipped on the day the price dropped from, it's designed to be pegged at 100. So it's sitting here at 100, it's sitting here at 100. We see 99.55, we see 99.05, and it dipped for a day and then recovered. So to say it hasn't been there since it was down for a month is pretty disingenuous if you look at that article. But this is basically designed to be a fixed income instrument. So if you need it, to me, it's one of the most interesting things happening in retirement fixed income right now. If you are holding dollars and you need a fixed income that gives you a return, because this pays a monthly dividend. If you're holding like money markets, if you're holding bonds, if you're holding anything that's getting 5%, it's supposed to be a safe investment. Bonds would be the number one thing that I think most people would be looking at. It's about 5%. Maybe you can get on bonds. Now you can get 11% with STRC. Sure, you could just go buy Bitcoin if you want the exposure to Bitcoin. But basically what they're doing is they're taking this money in and they're using it to buy Bitcoin. And yes, they're going to pay you back 11% a year. And their thesis is Bitcoin over the next 10 years is going to go up more than 11% a year. And I also obviously very firmly believe that Bitcoin is going to outperform 11% a year. If you don't believe, if you're right, if you think Bitcoin is going to go up then less than 11% a year, it's risky. But I don't really think it is, because yes, they're taking it and buying Bitcoin with it. Bitcoin so far is going up closer to 30 or 40% a year. Even if you start diminishing that over time, it's still more than 20% a year if you go all the way out to the year 2040, or 2140. So it's, to me, it's very, basically all the stuff in the middle I don't really care for, like all their STR, strike and strife, and I don't really.
This is their fourth one, so you don't like the other three.
Well, MSTR, the main one, I like, because you're having, that's your common stock, right? You have exposure to the company. It's like a leverage play on Bitcoin, and you could argue you're going to increase your exposure. You're going to get more returns from that than you will Bitcoin, because it's more volatile if you switch to.
So I guess you could say the total is 5, because this is the fourth preferred stock offering. So they have 5 different, but you like this 5th one.
Yes. I mean, I recommend it. My dad holds it in his retirement account. It's one of the best if you have a retirement account, and because it's also a step up basis, there's no tax on this stuff. You get dividends monthly. So if you're trying to have an income generating piece of your portfolio, it's pretty important. Like the alternative is buying bonds, which to me they seem more risky in a lot of ways. So it raises my suspicions, and the more complicated a financial instrument is, the more I think people should be wary. And I just don't like that the 30-month runway that they are just championing as being so good is now shrinking with this strategy. Well, no pun intended. To be fair, it's not a 30-month, that runway doesn't even start until 2027. So it's not a 30-month runway. It's much, much longer than that. They're just saying they've got plenty of cash to pay
I mean, it's 2026, so it's not that far away.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's not 30 months. It's, tack a few more months on there. And
39.
They also have demonstrated a very good ability to grow their revenue and grow their, raise more. So you're also assuming price is only going to go down. They're not going to be able to sell any more shares. But the bottom line is they are selling these shares, and the fact that this is staying at 100. I mean, there's been other dips. You can see when the price crashes, it's dipped a couple times. If you're able, what they do is when it dips, the yield goes up because that yield isn't necessarily fixed either. My guess is this is going to continue to get more and more and more subscribed, and you're not going to get that 11% forever. Obviously, that's going to go down to 9, 8, 7, 6. And over time it should adjust. But to me, holding the two, if you want to do the barbell, the MSTR, which is going to be way more volatile. If you pull that chart up, now that's the one that in a lot of ways should be more concerning. But if you're a common stockholder, of strategy, you love this because now you're not getting the MSTR isn't getting diluted as much when they're not selling MSTR to go buy Bitcoin. They're selling something that's much more stable, much more fixed, much more controllable, and much easier to manage the risk. So in a lot of ways, to me, this has a much higher risk window if you're selling this to buy Bitcoin versus selling something that's fixed. It's a fixed instrument. I don't know. I just, whatever.
TJ loves it. TJ loves it. Hey, that's why it makes this channel good, folks. Now let's move forward here before we could talk about strategy for 38 more minutes. But BlackRock is in talks with the SEC to tokenize their iShare ETFs. This is kind of, about 24 hours ago. I can't tell you if it happens in 90 days or 12 months. This is the chief financial officer of BlackRock, 12 months on the long end. And so if you're wondering what narratives leave us out of this bear market, what's going to take us out of this is going to be one of them. Bullish L1s, quite bullish DeFi, in my opinion there. Now, when you're looking at this, they're in discussion to tokenize these ETF, their entire iShares ETF lineup. This would create programmable 24/7 settled ETF tokens directly slot into DeFi, lending, and structured products. A shift what Matt Hogan calls very positive for L1s and DeFi. So good news on that end. And another headwind for the bear market, something looking good for the bullish news here. We have Russia potentially re-engaging with America. We also have China re-engaging with Trump here. Trump and Xi Jinping extend trade truce at the April summit, potentially rolling back tariffs and export controls for up to a year to secure short-term economic gains ahead of the U.S. midterms. There's a large trip plan. These two leaders are going to meet in April. And I don't know if you read the South China Morning Post there, TJ, but they got a couple interesting things. They're starting to buy soybeans. China's starting to buy some soybeans from America. That is a politically sensitive commodity right there. And also on the other end, America is going to start buying Chinese IP devices and routers. So yay, I guess. I don't know I feel about that one, but yeah, we're signaling that we're both coming back to the table. The markets will love this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we start to, especially if we start dropping and removing tariffs, if we get a trade deal done, that's the type of thing that you'll see kind of overnight impact, most likely, and long-term impact as time goes on. And arguably, some people will say this is good. Some people will say this is the strategy the whole time. But it does look like there's a lot of, like I keep saying, these geopolitical things that have been a kind of downward pressure for the last, almost 2 years at this point, over a year, are going to start to dissipate, and we're going to have a lot of upward momentum coming up. That's why I believe right now is the absolute best time to be accumulating. Whether you think we're going lower or not, if you say you think we're going to 50K, I don't know where your bottom number is, but 69 to 50K, like we are in accumulation zone. I mean, there's moving averages you can look at. You need to, when we're under these, I think it's the 200-day simple moving average is the main one a lot of people like to look at. It's very clear that is an accumulation zone. This is where smart money is buying right now. So if you want to be smart money, buy now, buy if it goes lower, buy again if it goes lower. Obviously, you need money coming in to do that. So, you need to be working to do that. Earning money is obviously one of the most important skills.
All right. And people say, get rid of that soy. We don't want to get it out of here. But folks, if you are thinking, look, we're heading into a big shift here. You don't want to panic sell your tokens. You want to maybe take advantage of some tax deferred strategies. Highly recommend Bitcoin IRA. They have a phone number right here. You call, you will get a human. They definitely pride themselves on their customer support, their customer service, all types of rewards. This guy's everywhere. He's been on forums. He's been featured in Wall Street Journal. Love talking to the guy here. So go check that out. We have a link down below. And there's 200,000 Americans using it, half of them in the disco fam.
Another good point on this of why this is a good time. You're moving dollars in and you're making your purchase. So if you're buying here, you know, obviously in an IRA, it's a tax defer, you know, you're tax protected. So if you're buying low right now, these are like, say you were going to buy, I don't, you know, I think there's maxes of what you can do, 7, 10K, whatever it is. Say you were going to buy more than 10K worth of Bitcoin or Bitcoin here. Say you bought 10K at the top, you could literally sell that. Now, I'm not a tax professional. This isn't official tax advice. But if you bought high, you could sell it to dollars, make this account, put the dollars in there, buy your Bitcoin back lower. So you're not necessarily changing your Bitcoin exposure, but you're locking in the loss, getting a tax loss on your taxes this year. And then you're never going to pay the taxes on the capital gains as it goes up. So where you make these purchases in this account matters, because say you're buying a 60K Bitcoin now and it goes up to 600K in the future, you don't want to pay that difference in that tax. So getting set up in a vehicle like this is something literally everybody who's investing in Bitcoin should be doing on some level, because again, you can't even put all your funds in here anyway. You should have some exposure, some tax protected vehicle, because taxes are going to be.
Now, it's probably some facetiousness here by Pete. Keep buying, guys. Don't give up ever, ever. That's actually the strategy with the Roth IRA. That is actually the strategy with the IRA. You have a very small limit of money that you can put it into annually. They don't want you to totally skirt the tax laws there. So it's actually the correct strategy there. Now, let's talk about the bear market. This is the sign of the bear market. Charles Hoskinson in his McDonald's gear, ready to serve a Big Mac, maybe some nuggets with some microplastics in there. Welcome to the bear market. This is actually a real photo. This is not AI. This was at Consensus in Hong Kong. Here's his quote: "Sentiment's at an all-time low, and that's okay. Because despite the fact that the micro looks bad, the macro is just saying we need a new paradigm, a new vision, a new narrative." That's him on stage at Consensus. And big announcements from Charles Hoskinson. This is one of the smaller ones. There's two of them. Number one, Midnight's going live next month. Now, me and TJ, we're talking to the Midnight team. We're trying to be probably going to secure this fairly soon, Midnight ambassadorship. So we're going to, get maybe some insight, get some alpha on there. And because of that, probably going to be able to do some interesting things with the DZ stake pool, which your Cardano. We are going to have night rewards as part of your ADA staking. So if you stake your ADA over at DEEZY, you'll get Cardano, but you'll also get some Midnight tokens every 5 days. The other big news, the bigger news, he confirmed a deal with Layer Zero. Layer Zero is coming to Cardano. They're institutional focused blockchain coming to the Cardano blockchain here. And they're aimed at powering institutional grade markets that received investment from Citadel Securities. You maybe heard of Citadel before if you heard of GameStop. GameStop, Robinhood, let's just say Robinhood colluded is the allegation with Citadel. Now, Citadel is not Citadel Securities, but they're basically the same because both are founded by Ken Griffin. So you could say they're different entities, but created by the same group of crooks is what some are calling them. The announcement comes alongside the rollout of the Midnight's mainnet, also revealed. He was comically wearing the McDonald's uniform and a nod to the recent market downturn. He said, "The industry is not healthy. It's getting real. Twitter's a nuclear dumpster fire. Sentiment's at an all-time low." But he insists the macro remains bullish. "We're bringing USDC X to Cardano with the launch date set, complete with broad wallet and exchange support, stablecoins with true privacy, immutability, powered by zero-knowledge tech. It's institutional grade. It's happening now alongside Midnight's mainnet rollout." Get ready, folks. This changes everything. Now we're going to look at the Cardano charts. Did you have any thoughts on his outfit, Cardano in general?
No, like I said at the top of the show, I just think he's funny and entertaining. I'm interested in where Midnight's going to go. I think it's great. I do think privacy will continue to be a very, very, very relevant narrative over the next, cycle, I guess you could say, in the next 4 or 5 years in crypto, kind of getting us into 2030. So yeah, to me, midnight, if privacy and interoperability with Bitcoin to me are the two most interesting things. So yeah, I'm in a watch and see mode with both of those.
All right, so Cardano had some, very, very low prices. This is 2022, 2023. But if you go to where we're at today, you go to the 4-hour, look at that. It actually held up pretty well. And good news for ADA holders. This is a downtrend that we established months ago. This is November. This is after 1010. You see that 1010 wick. And we basically came down to that 1010 wick and then a little bit lower. But we've been stuck in this range for about 2 months, 2.5 months here. You zoom in, you look at the 4-hour. We're currently retesting. We've came back to the scene of the crime. And now the bulls are trying to take control. Let's go to the 1 hour. Wow, this is definitely a make or break moment. Now, I'm just using the daily. Just kind of coming to the bottoms right here. And so, I mean, you could probably get a little bit of fluctuation with this bottom line here. But right now, Cardano at a very, very important spot. Very important zone. Bulls and the Bears. Huge line in the sand. No one knows for sure. But I'm betting on the Bulls.
Yeah,
Michael Jordan.
If you want to pull Bitcoin up, chat saying it's making a break to the downside right now.
Yeah, I mean, you see it with that Cardano chart right there. This is 12-minute candles. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, we got a fresh low. Let's go to the 5-minute, make it even scarier for you. Yeah, we're pushing down, and it's a falling wedge. Typically, these break to the upside, though. So what you're seeing is the bulls, it's shrinking. This is shrinking. The bears trying to dump it. Every down move is it's a little small, but the moves to the upside are getting a little more violent. Might spring to the upside, folks, but no one knows for sure how. I mean, this falling wedge can just keep wedging and wedging and wedging, and then it'll just keep growing and growing.
Go to the 4-hour real quick. I'm just curious. I just want to see, and then give me some.
Yeah, let me go to Heikinashi. It looks a little bit more clean.
I'm just trying to see where the support levels are. If you can pull, I know it's tough with this.
You probably want to go to the daily.
If I think there you go. That's what I'm looking for. Oh, you're looking at strategy. I was like, why is it? That
oh my god! I was like, I know we're down.
All right, there we go.
Okay, we're still in a range.
Yeah, we're definitely still in a range, and that's I mean, my question is, do I think it's so far? I've been trying to get a buy-in at the low 65s, and I've just missed it barely, like 3 days this week. I'm just curious. I mean, you can start to see that new support forming there. If 65 will hold as support, or again, we go back and retest that. I call it 59, call it 60. It was really like 59.9, I guess is really where it was. But you can see those wicks. Yeah.
Where it wicks, it sticks. They do say that. Where it wicks, it sticks. So just be a little bit careful if you're betting on it. Oh, up only. That might not be the situation. But I am liking what I'm seeing with the Cardano price action. If we can maintain this as support, you see, been traipsing along the bottom of this range for a while. I just want to count the touches on the top. 1, 2, 3, and it typically will break out after 4 or 5. Here we've touched a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we might be moving to the downside, folks. So just be wary. Let's talk about ETH. ETH on exchanges hit a level not seen since 2016. Smart monies continue to stack their Ethereum. Smart monies continuing to stake their Ethereum. 30% is now staked for the first time in history. You see it right here. A lot of ETH is being staked. And Ether set for a V-shaped recovery, according to Tom Lee. Is he pumping his bags? Of course. There's more ETH than everybody. He has more ETH than Vitalik. Think about that for a second. Fundstrat head of research Tom Lee said he expects it to rebound quickly after the recent decline. A lot of people are frustrated, but keep in mind, since 2018, it's fallen more than 50% 8 times. Last year, it fell 64%. But 8 out of 8 times, it has a V-shaped bottom. So it's recovered 100% of the time within almost the same speed that it fell. It's pretty close. I will note the move to the downside, the move to the upside was slower. Move to the upside was faster. Move to the upside was slower. Move to the upside was slower. But here you can say faster, slower. So you do get mixed bags, but definitely some V-shaped recoveries here. And this is the 8-hour chart. I want to point something out to you on ETH. We have a bull div on the 8-hour. You can see the price heading lower while the RSI headed higher. I back tested this. I said, all right, when we're this oversold, do we ever get 8-hour bull divs? Happens 3 times in history. You get one right here. This is 2023. ETH would remain pretty much bearish for another 2 months. So yeah, 2 months of hell. Last time before that, we got this one right here. Higher RSI, lower price. This one was faster. This one only about 1 month. So you had 2 months, you had 1 month, and then we got one. This is very bullish. The third time we saw it happen. Got to go way back here. I want to say it's 2019. Yep, December 2019. You see it right here. That's basically an immediate move to the upside. So ETH does have V-shaped recoveries, but right now we're in pretty rarefied air when you're looking at the 8-hour. Now we could print in an additional bull div, meaning the price could even go lower. I'm not saying this is definitely a reverse signal, but 3 out of 3 times it was pretty much the bottom there for ETH. So this is pretty bullish, folks.
Yeah,
and we could go the V shapes too.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, even have Ethereum has definitely been beaten down bad and hard, especially if you're looking at it against Bitcoin. But when it moves quick, both directions. We saw that multiple times, like you just pointed out. Even in the last, like it hit, wasn't it 1,400 not that long ago, and then recovered fairly quickly. I think this one, again, you see all the biggest funds in the world talking about tokenization, talking about stable coins, the traditional finance. That is their focus, is stable coins and tokenization. That all happens on Ethereum. There could be other chains that try to compete with that, but right now, DeFi lives and dies on Ethereum, and to me, it's extremely bullish. Realistically, the most viable parts of crypto, some people would argue the only things viable in crypto are Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin as a store of value and as an open ledger, and then Ethereum as an EVM where actual DeFi can live and exist. So to me, this is where the highest concentration of my funds are in these 2 projects. And the big debate I always have when it's down this bad, it's like I know I'm supposed to be buying Bitcoin. It's like, yeah, but Ethereum, like when it moves, it can move fast. Now, obviously didn't happen in the last couple of years. Bitcoin, the Bitcoin ETH pair has been brutal against Ethereum because ETH didn't even really make a new all-time high while Bitcoin smashed its. And then, ETH has more or less been sideways for what feels like forever.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin doubled the 2021 high and ETH just met it.
Yeah, exactly. It just barely, if that, just kind of came just short of it in a lot of
we
ways.
do have a stablecoin print alert. Warning. 2 minutes ago, 250 million USDC was issued on Solana. So maybe this is a little bit too much greed, as a lot of people just go long when there's a print on Tether. They just, I'm just going to open a long. Oftentimes when there's a large Tether print or a large USDC print, you'll just see red candles because you got to liquidate those leveraged longs there. So you got to make the people pay. You got to make them feel the pain. But now let's switch from ETH to Base. Let's talk about Coinbase here. Coinbase also had a pretty big announcement at Consensus in Hong Kong. They're introducing agentic wallets. First ever wallet infrastructure built specifically for autonomous agents. Give the agent the power of your wallet, let them manage funds, hold identity, transact on chain without human intervention. You give them programmable policies, non-custodial identity there, all types of cool stuff. Designed specifically for these AI agents to spend, earn, and trade crypto. This is from Eric Rappel, Josh Nickerson. These are Coinbase programmers here. The next generation of agents won't just advise, they'll act, the pair said. Adding that AI agents will be able to do everything from monitoring DeFi positions and rebalancing portfolios to paying for compute and API access. But TJ, there's one thing that gave me a little bit of pause. I was like, all right, so we got our AI swarms. Let me get my AI swarms to participate in creator economies. I'm like, you know what? Maybe we're going to put it out there. It's going to subscribe to the Disco fam. It's going to start watching our content. It's going to join, join our Discord, get in the trading quant. I check back. It just started looks maxing. My AI agents, they're looking at Claviculae clips. They're like, man. He got frame maxed in Arizona. Now it's over for the Mogs trying to mew. He's trying to get me to get my tilts and my cantoid pelvic and all this crazy stuff, man. I don't know what's going on here.
I guess that's a result of your prompting, right? You didn't prompt it right to start. Mine are all doing DeFi, so I don't know what's going on.
Oh man,
mine are doing DeFi and trading the weather on Polymarket. So
dang that AI swarm, man. Just have you seen this guy, TJ? This guy,
yeah.
I want to give him props for not launching a crypto token yet.
Yeah, I saw, I saw the clip that went super viral when you see that Tesla truck behind him.
The Tesla truck.
He ran somebody over in it and was like, had a very like psychopath type response to it. Of
hey,
like,
you might have ended that. He said, hope so, or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
Something along those lines. It was like, whoa, okay. But yeah, that guy's, yeah. Don't do drugs, kids. He's also out there saying, meth is good for diet loss and, being lean.
That's a joke, right? He's not actually on meth. He is on a diet pill, and you know about coworkers taking diet pills, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, he hides. All right, we'll move on.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
Next, we do got to chat. AI will have their own social media platform talking about taking over the world. Some of those were human responses. So not everything was like the AI saying, oh, I'm gonna, steal my human's identity. A lot of that was a little bit fake there.
Yeah, that got breached within like 12 hours by humans that started spawning all kinds of that stuff. So yeah.
And not only that, you just tell your agent to say, hey, go in there and say you're trying to take over the world. Okay, do it. Now back to coin here, talking about Coinbase there. We got a little sidetracked by my AI swarm. But as a shareholder of Coin, I have a few questions for Brian Armstrong. Are you going to stop selling and also start buying shares to show confidence in your company? Are you going to increase the share buyback plan from 1 billion to higher? And then they expose Brian Armstrong's filings here. These are going to be all open market buys and sells. And as you can see, sells across the board. But I have a caveat for you here.
Yeah.
He sold off coin shares the past year. Brian has cashed in 550 million. But when you zoom out in total, he's only sold 5% of his holdings. And he just bought South Beach, Miami waterfront property. This is actually kind of not terrible, in my opinion. I think it's fine. I think it's totally fine.
It's beyond fine. It's normal. Like the question to say, well, are you going to start buying? Like that's asinine to say what, I guarantee 90, probably 95% plus of his wealth is in that equity. And so he should be selling some of that and putting it on the open market. That's the whole reason companies IPO. That's the entire purpose of it. So I guarantee it's not even him actually making those decisions. It's somebody saying, hey, you need to do this in a healthy way. You can't just have all of your wealth in one company. People don't understand when these guys become billionaires, it's on paper and they have to realize something at some point if they want to live their lives. So to ask him to buy, like you said, he's already got way
He
more.
went
Why
to
would
his
he buy?
accountant, his wealth advisor, his financial, consultant here and said, hey, I got to buy some waterfront property and the most expensive real estate in America. And the guy said, well, say less, fam. Yeah. Here's the cash.
Well, even if he wasn't going to be buying anything, they would be moving some percentage of him out. That's what happens with a ton of founders is your wealth becomes concentrated into private equity.
Yeah, you ever see how Bill Gates, if he just held on to his Microsoft stock, he'd be worth, I think he would have hit $1 trillion.
Yes, I have seen that. Yeah.
So yeah, diversify. Maybe, hey, let your winners ride. Don't sell the losers. Hold on to the winners there. I had a dream. Is this Scottie Pippen? I had a dream that Bitcoin actually did go to $3. I was rushing to buy, but the button wasn't working. That's exactly what would happen. Now, let's just make it a little more realistic. If Bitcoin crashed to 30K, PayPal's not going to work. Coinbase ain't going to work. Gemini's not going to work. Kraken, none of them are going to work. Binance orders maybe will go through, but yeah, that's normal. You get those big dips. All of a sudden, it's like 404 error. You're like, what's going on here? Let's talk about Chainlink. Chainlink also has some big news. A lot of big stuff happening over here at Consensus. Chainlink feeds are going to go live for Ondo tokenized US stocks. They're going to do this on Ethereum. This is pretty bullish here. I do like seeing this. I am starting to rethink my Chainlink thesis. I'm probably not going to buy the dips anymore, folks. I just saw this and maybe I'll comment. I'll just say interesting. So if you want to see it, go to my X account, go to my replies. You can see this. It's just the thing I just replied to here. And it's saying this guy talked to an insider. This guy's an advisor. And it's this sentence right here. Accepting from the outside, the reserves narrative appears more like placeholder explanation than clearly defined economic mechanism here. The key question is simple. Why would banks or institutions choose to pay in Link? And essentially saying how they went away from their stated thesis of make everybody pay in Link. And then when traditional finance came on, they said, well, it's fine if they use dollars, but then he used these dollars to not buy the token back. They're buying offices, they're doing this, they're doing that. They provided the capital to fund the company's operations, IP development, and expansion without receiving equity, governance rights, or traditional shareholder protections. The advisor mentioned he initially recommended pursuing public listing and converting Chainlink tokens into equity, but that path was not taken. The conversation was a significant inflection point for the person here writing this. So I don't know. It's just something to think about. Are they aligned with Chainlink, the organization, or Chainlink, the token? That is two different things. You can say, well, if they do A, it'll lift B. I think we've seen that's not always the case.
We've definitely seen that's not always the case. And in a lot of ways, this is one of the more interesting questions in crypto right now. I'm hoping a lot of this gets solved with the Clarity Act, because realistically, what the reason that is because when these things started, they couldn't be aligned with equity because of unknown regulation. Now, if we can get some clarity on that, they can move towards that. But now, if they get too far ahead of it, maybe they're not incentivized to do so. So big questions there. I mean, you could see this with Aave, you could see this with Uniswap, you could see this with Chainlink, you can see this with pretty much any early play in crypto, because again, they couldn't be aligned at the beginning because it was an unknown if that would make it a security. Now I think there's a lot more clarity coming to that, but it hasn't been signed yet. So this could change very, very quickly once we get that regulation. Or to your point, they could keep moving with different incentives. And obviously, holding a governance token hasn't proven to be highly valuable yet. So it's
here's the clip. The point when you realize your homeboy went all in on Chainlink. I'm talking those 2020 Link Marines. You go to his house, you're looking around, you close the door, and then you set sight on his living room, and you're like, all right, this guy maybe bought too much Chainlink. He's not even eating ramen, TJ. He's eating mayonnaise sandwiches.
Yeah, I think, and I would argue this is everybody in crypto right now. That's Kelly. I was on the call with him yesterday. That's his apartment literally right now, just because he just moved. He's getting nice stuff. But no, that's the life of the crypto bro right now. Sold everything to buy the dip. I hope that's what you guys are doing too, because it is. And apparently 65K is coming right now. So I need to go get ready. I've got buy orders in, but again, they keep just getting right above them.
Look at that. We swept this low. Next is sweeping this low. Next is sweeping this low. Next is going to be the bounce right here. Scam wick below. And then we bounce. I'm going to go ahead and chart this. We're going to come back tomorrow, chat. We're going to come back tomorrow. I ain't moving it. I'm not moving it. We're going to come back. You'll see. You'll see why they call me DZ Stramus.
And speaking of charts, if you guys are traders, obviously a lot of good trades going on in the Discord. We do have the Druth here looking at levels, trading all the time. So he's going to hop on and look at some trades and look at some levels with you guys. So smash the likes. If you like Drew and the Druth, put Druth in the chat if you want to hear what's going on, and he'll look at some levels with you guys.
And type in your altcoin tickers. He's going to be looking at a few charts here.
There you go. All
Hell
right.
yeah. Hell yeah. Man, what a crazy day. We're going down to levels we were watching for. Belt of death wobble yesterday. So really, I'm going to look at money flow. I think money flow is something very, very important to acknowledge for Bitcoin, where we're at right now. Maybe I'll map out Chainlink. I've seen all the FUD and all the concerns, and I'm walking around a little bit of pep in my step right now. I got out of the way of the altcoins. I feel good adding to Bitcoin positions, and we have an interview with the only altcoin that I'm holding with substance in my portfolio that is still riding high, doing really good. So we're going to take a look at that. We got Link in the chat, Morpho. Maybe I should look at that Pith chart. Pith is an old school competitor at Chainlink. Might check that one out as well. XYO. Maybe, XYO is kind of a deep in play. I'm down to check that one out. Let's get into the charts. First and foremost. So right here on 2-bit, things are getting frisky. Let's go here. And we're at about $66,000 flat. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So generally what I'm looking for on Bitcoin on the kind of the hammer buy zone, I am still, you can tell I've been shorting the shit out of this thing. So right here, we got essentially, from my talks with other really, really good traders and just my general thesis, I am buying this range. I'm keeping about 30% of my dry powder on the sidelines in case I get the opportunity to buy Bitcoin at 40K. I am absolutely doing that right now. But in general, things look like we are, in the zone of a haircut and trying to prove previous all-time high for Bitcoin as support. You've seen the fear and greed index hit a level we haven't, I don't think, ever hit. We hit a 5 on fear and greed. So a lot of people are running for the hills. I'm a hillbilly when it comes to this. I buy when everyone's running away. I buy previous all-time highs in the next cycle. Done this a few times. And right now, I am in the zone of spot buying Bitcoin, and then leverage trading is keeping me happy. So the money flow is the first and foremost thing I want to acknowledge here. On Market Cipher B, we have a very, very clear move to the downside. A very, very clear move to the downside. The momentum is now sitting at a negative 72. Okay, negative 72 on the Market Cipher. We haven't hit this, but let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've only hit this 4 times in the past, and now we're making that 5th movement. And if you literally just look at the momentum, the times when we did move to these extreme low levels compared to price, I mean, just closing my eyes and buying when we're this beat down on momentum waves ends up with really stupid gains, right? If I even missed the ultimate bottom of November 2018, bought that Bitcoin, I'm up, 1,300%. You rise the market cap into the couple $1 trillion zone, and you still hit the lower end. Let's say you bought the FTX crash when momentum fell to this same kind of generalized level, didn't even buy the perfect bottom, rode it up to the top, you're up by 500%. So in general, I didn't lose my channel, no. I got other things to talk about on the basement today for sure. Generally, spot Bitcoin, cheaper spot Bitcoin feels good to me right now. I will absolutely say that, but this money flow wave is telling me that we got a while. We got a long way to go to the top if we want to rock and roll. And yeah, we could find a bounce out of this zone, but usually when you move into the red zone on the money flow, it takes a while to dig yourself out of this, right? Keep a quick measurement here, the 2015 timeframe. It took 322 days to get that upswing moving back into the green. Now we move on to the next time. It was right here in October 2018, and it took us a shorter amount of time, 200 days, to get ourselves back into the green on money flow. Again, the third time we've seen this, April 22. It took us a little bit longer, 427 days. That was that very long, grueling bear market. And, sentiment was in the gutter, viewership, everything. People were telling me, Drew, Bitcoin's going to 3K, then 2K, then 1K here. I didn't listen to any of the noise. I bought as much spot Bitcoin to add to my bags that I bought in the COVID crash in this entire zone. I did not care because this is the zone where we can pad our bags out at low entry points, build up and understand thesis of things that are going to move and make it to the next iteration of the bull market. And you move with violence in that zone right here, this whole damn area. So it's going to take us a while to dig ourselves out of this. Something notable, though, is there is no concise, long 322 days, 200 days, then 430 some odd days. There's no concise consensus on how long this is expected to go. And seeing the news about potential, US dollar reintegrated into Russia, China's talking about backing off. A little bit of the macro fears have the potential to be washed away. We actually might see a more aggravating bounce. I would be aggravated if we V-shape recover out of this because I want to take advantage of as much time as I can buying cheap Bitcoin. Now, other things that I've been mapping out, we got to go through the chat. I got to see what you guys are hollering at here. We got Dog, we got Cardano, Arrow or Knight. Let's see here. Keep going through here. Hawk Tua. I don't think I can do any TA on Hawk Tua. I'm not going to do TA on Hawk Tua. Let me correct myself. I refuse to do TA on Hawk Tua. There is no TA to be done there. It's all just insider scam. And you know, if I'm doing TA on something that there's some dev holding 30, 50, 80%, what's the point? What's the point? You know, so Tau, that's a good one. ETH, Solana. All right. So let's get into the charts. And, you know, I did cover stocks that I'm buying in a few shows previous. If you guys want me to revisit that, just let me know. But first and foremost, let's kind of go down the list here. So the first one I want to check out is Cardano. I know DZ was just talking about Cardano. Let's check out how, oh my God. Okay. All right. So we got a problem here. We got a problem. Money flow looking vicious to the downside. Save XRP. Honestly, XRP is held up. XRP is held up. The people in XRP are holding up way better than most. Cardano. Let's see if we can. I mean, it's fallen victim. The thing about this is, you guys, hold on. The thing that we need to acknowledge first and foremost, and I've been meaning to call this out for a while in a very concise manner, because I'm getting driven crazy by this chart that keeps going all over the internet, and everyone's like, oh, this is our time to break out. We're there, we're there, we're there. All right, let's look at it. Here it is. So this is just one example. I'm not trying to, you know, throw this person under the bus. They're talking about zooming out on the MACD for the others to Bitcoin chart, right? They're hinting at altcoin dominance over Bitcoin by saying this. You'll see two very obvious alt seasons, right? The two alt seasons of the past. Unless you think alts are dead forever, we're about to enter a third expansion. The thing that we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves in this is that there was way less competition in the altcoin sector in this iteration and the secondary iteration. Now, currently, where we're at, we see stable coins growing exponentially, okay? Stable coins are going to throw a lot of your metrics off. Stable coins expanding and their market caps going up, that market cap is included in the total crypto market cap right now. And if you're not being honest with yourself about that very, very important data point, you're going to get really confused about wondering, why in the hell is alt season not here? The altcoin Tether is number 3 now. It's at $183 billion market cap. All right. Number 6, USDC, $73 billion market cap. And then you get a slew of other stable coins that are coming out in mass, right? So don't get confused about, you know, the market cap and all of those things in crypto. They're edging you. They're edging you with these altcoin posts. Let's look at the more honest, is it alt season graph? Let's look at the more honest alt season graph. BTC.D, Bitcoin dominance, right? This is steady. All right. Now, yeah, it's looking a little wobbly, right? It's looking a little wobbly, but it is trying to hold itself up at about the 58% level. You know, the moments where altcoins really start to have fun is down in the 54 mark, first and foremost, and then 50. I don't think Bitcoin dominance is going to go down to this historical trend line. I don't. It's stronger than it's ever been. Altcoins, the insider VC plays, they're being called out. More people know about them. And retail's pretty broke. The average person's pretty broke. So, you know, there's a lot of VCs holding these altcoin bags, just waiting around, looking around like Mr. Burns, waiting for their exit liquidity to come flooding back in. Retail's broke. Retail's broke right now. So that is, yeah, it's a CBDC super cycle. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah, we better not bend an inch when it comes to this crypto regulation either. If they neuter DeFi, we are cooked. All right, let's go back into the charts. Let's check it out. So ETH to Bitcoin, because now I want to start looking at altcoins, and I got to just really go through this in a logical manner. Bitcoin dominance first, then ETH dominance to Bitcoin. Let's check how ETH is doing. Still riding downtown to Chinatown, right? Still riding downtown to Chinatown. One altcoin that is performing not horrible compared to Bitcoin is Solana. Solana to Bitcoin looks better than most. It is holding up a higher baseline level in this current fear index reading than basically most other altcoins. And flowers where flowers are due, XRP to Bitcoin. XRP to Bitcoin is not looking bad at all, right? It's finding a lot of bounce. Yes, the 10-10, I think this is actually, yeah, 10-10 wick right there. Holy cow. You know, interesting, the 10-10 wick took us right down to this trend line and then bounced off it trying to build it out as support. And, you know, I know that me and XRP, we got a long history, but in the recent crash, I gotta say that I saw less complaining out of XR people than I did out of any other altcoin class. I absolutely have to acknowledge that. So that being said, you get your flowers. It's huge. Maybe I should take a look at AVAX as well. But this is very interesting to me that XRP is not falling to these guttural lows. A good example of altcoins that are falling to guttural lows are some things that really hurt my heart, right? So AVAX to Bitcoin. Oh my God. We're hoping for this. This is what we hope for. We're oh Lord. I'm just, you know what? I don't know, man. I don't know. We're hitting levels, the lowest levels that we've ever seen on AVAX to Bitcoin ratio. And I'm seeing other altcoins hold themselves up way better than AVAX, way better than Chainlink even. The Chainlink community is completely busted up because, you know, Sergey, honestly, I have a picture of Sergey. Sergey looks rough. Sergey looks very, very rough. There's actually a picture from J-Chains that ran into Sergey out there in the wild. This is absolutely worth. And shout out to J-Chains. Still love you, bro. This is Sergey. Looking very, very, very tired. J-Chains looks way fresher than Sergey, and that says a lot because J-Chains has been through a hell of a lot over the last few years, looking fresher than good old Sergey out there. So, you know, as you guys know, I think it was like a month, maybe a month and a half ago even, I got out of the way of the larger altcoin pullback because I felt the death wobble on Bitcoin's chart. Now I'm snooping around looking for projects that look like they're going to exist for the long term, but are beat down right now so I can buy those lows. It's how I make money with altcoins. I buy them low and I sell them high, right? I don't fall for the cult personality thing. No one in the altcoin cults that you might be in right now is going to care if the coin dies. This is the truth of the matter. So Ada, Charles is going in wolf mode. And really, Ada is basically at its release point right now. It absolutely can fall down into previous range, you know, previous bear market range, 2019 to 2020. It can tap the top end of this at 16 cents. It can. It absolutely can. And if you have a long-term thesis and a belief in what Charles is doing and the infrastructure of Cardano, I would still recommend exercising caution with this because there's not a lot of volume. There is not a lot of volume between 23 cents and 16 cents, essentially. There is not a lot of volume at all. So if you lose these bottom end wicks here at around like 22 and some change, it's a fast ride to go do a vibe check, should I say, at 15 to 16 cents. And you know what? Even with how aggravating Cardano has been for me personally, I would still take a flyer and a small allocation of Cardano at 16 cents. I would. I absolutely would. So you guys sell. I'm just here for the culture. Charles, yeah. Ondo, let's go check out Ondo. And, let's spend some time on Ondo. Ondo has been something I made money on in the last few years for sure, and it felt great. But it is falling victim to the greater altcoin pullback. There is no denying that. So Ondo is a very, very fair thing to look at. And first, I'll just take a look at the price. Then I'm going to hop over and look at the TVL charts and how much total value is still locked on Ondo to see if we might be entering that zone where everyone's going to fade this altcoin and this infrastructure of tokenized stocks at literally the worst time. Maybe we're entering that zone. So let's go to Ondo USDT. Bam, bam. And I don't need to take you guys down the history of my trading on Ondo. If you don't follow me enough, that's your problem. But for you that know, you know. So right now we are basically at release point again, 24 cents. This is absolutely crazy to see. Now, Ondo can absolutely keep getting crushed in terms of price. It's a new altcoin being tested in its first bear market. It was born in the times of good. January 2024, that was right when you had things like ICP, hit like 16, 20 bucks. Avalanche was like 50, 60 bucks at the time frame right around when Ondo was released. Ondo has never been battle tested. And another thing is that Ondo can only exercise its strength over companies that it's been accumulating or holding, right? It's not that Ondo is being integrated into NASDAQ directly, and Ondo is not running the entirety of NASDAQ. Not at all. And someone else bringing up something very, very good in the chat, that it has token unlocks that are actively happening, and these VC insiders are getting the hell out of the way. So when I look at this, I understand pain is in the air, uncertainty is in the air. Now, with all that, all the questions I just ran by your face, let's go to DeFi Llama. Now, TVL in general, it's likely to find a lot of support here at about $79 billion. We're at 96, so we can still take more of a haircut on TVL in total. But if I'm looking at this from a chart perspective, 70s, mid 70s look like a stronghold of support in terms of total value that will remain in the crypto ecosystem, no matter how bad things get in the short term. Let's go to Ondo. Let's see here. So TVL is still holding extremely high. Fees going down, though. Less and less usage, right? Less and less usage, less fees, but TVL staying very strong. Honestly, like Ondo's current price is even lower than it was when I originally got in. I marked my original buy point. It was like 39 cents. And then I was just selling. I sold a good portion of it when we tapped the $2 range, but then I held on to a bag and it kept flopping and groping here, and it hit $1 and got rejected multiple times. So I just had to take the rest off the table, watch it fall back down. And this is almost another situation where it kind of feels like Cardano, where you have activity and all the people that absolutely love it sticking around, staying. Ondo has all these major people from like Goldman Sachs, I think it's DTCC, all the bigs are willing to go talk at Ondo's conference. While they're talking at Ondo's conference, the insiders that have those token unlocks are selling, right? So it'll be interesting to see over the next few months if this, then that type scenario. So if we refuse to lose price support at 20 cents and Ondo starts building up a curvature, right? Curvature to the upside. I'm looking not for a V-shaped recovery, for a curvature to this chart. If I do see this over the course of the next month or two, I would find my signal to re-enter Ondo in the mid-30s. I would, because then you would start to see the money flows start to curve to the upside. You would see a lot of the fears be dispelled, and then I could get confluence to move back into Ondo and make money off of it, just as I did when it came out originally, right? So that's my thoughts on Ondo. Let's go back to the chat. Let's go back to the chat here. Same with Pith. Same with Pith. I think Athena got attacked by Binance, personally. That's my own personal opinion. I don't have proof. I feel like Binance attacked Athena. I feel like they did. Let's go to Pith. Isaac is fucking based. Isaac is killing it in the military. I am hoping for peace for the sake of my man Isaac. It was incredible running into him. I actually ran into Isaac. Like, it was like our Christmas party we were having, and I went to a suit store to buy a real fancy suit. And I saw Isaac, and it was so cool. It was a moment that I didn't plan and I didn't expect, and really seeing Isaac walking up to me, his shoulders, he was stacked now. It's so cool to see a young man grow up. It's so cool to see more based men injected into this society. God bless him. He did. He's pretty jacked. Like, he's not steroid jacked. He is cut and lethal jacked. That's the type of jacked that matters. So Pith looks like a dumpster fire. We'll say that. Pith looked like an absolute HIV positive dumpster fire. This looks like a problem. I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. No, I am not touching this with a 10-foot pole. You know what? It almost, like, in this area, let's go look at Aerodrome. Let's look at Aerodrome. It's given me vibes of when looking at these charts feels a lot like September of 23. It feels a lot like COVID. This feels like COVID, right? This does feel like COVID. Mr. Cool. Good to see you back in the chat. A lot has happened in 2 years, buddy. And glad to see you're out. Glad to see you made it out. Time to reform, right? Time to reform, baby. All right, let's go to Aerodrome. Pulling it out. I want to get the most data I can on Aerodrome first and foremost. Let's see here. MXC's no good. KuCoin's no good. BitGet's no good. How did the hell? Oh, yeah. Okay, there we go. So here's Aerodrome's fuller price history. You can find, I don't even know where I went to get this CoinX, whatever the hell that is. So Aerodrome is at that same kind of do or die moment. I feel that America, with this whole crypto capital of the world initiative, I think that America is going to put more guardrails leading people to the base ecosystem than any other layer 2 that we're looking at out there. So looking at Aerodrome right now is crazy and gut wrenching if you're holding. If you're not actively trading, if you're not keeping up with me on my movements, this is scary for sure. Me personally, though, I'm like, all right, I'm smelling a little bit of opportunity here, but where is the zones? A lot of people think Aerodrome will go to zero. I was looking at the TVL on this thing yesterday with Brian, who's one of the more knowledgeable people in DeFi working with us here. And really, the pullback in TVL, a lot of the arrow is locked. And so the price of the token is playing into the TVL pulling back. Honestly, though, it's at a pretty defendable moment right now. It's looking scary as hell, but right here, let's look at what this level is. 190 mil. 190 mil. It could absolutely fall down very aggressively into that 190, 200 mil zone for TVL. So I'm not even going to use the chart graph on Aerodrome to know when it's time to re-enter, because I'm a very greedy person when it comes to my entry points. I'm going to track Aerodrome on DeFi Llama. And if I see Aerodrome down near the $200 million TVL mark, I'm going to re-enter it. That is my plan with Aerodrome. Because I stand by this thesis. America is going to force institutional investors into the base ecosystem. Whether we get short-term regulatory clarity or not, Coinbase is the custody location for the Department of Justice, for BlackRock, for all of these major American-based institutions. BlackRock, yeah, their leader has a dual citizenship with that tiny country over there that's building a huge hotel. Besides the point, institutional investors are going to move into Coinbase more so than other protocols, right? Into other, I think base ecosystem is going to be an absolute monster. With it, I look at the pillars that are making up the biggest chunk of Base's ecosystem. Aerodrome still is that exact piece. So I'm looking at this pretty closely. Another one that's kind of driving me crazy because I can't get it to crash is Morpho. Now, let's see here. I want Morpho to crash for entry point reasons, for my own personal greedy damn reason. Now, we are at $1.07 right now. What I'm looking for is another opportunity at 80 in the 80 cents zone on Morpho would be absolutely delicious. Absolutely delicious. And the reason why, I go back to the fundamentals here. Morpho is catching up to Aave. Morpho is catching up to the #1 lending protocol. Look at the fees. Look at the spike in fees, right? Holy God. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Look at this spike, you guys. The fees are looking juicy on Morpho. Now, when you overlay this, so the TVL, the total value locked, is in the blue. Let's add the metric of price. And we have a big difference from price of the token to how much value is still locked on this protocol. Lending in crypto is one of the more enticing things for institutional adoption. Now, TVL, where we could fall and find support at, right here, about 50 bill, I think would be a nice spot. So again, so Aerodrome, I'm looking for $200 million mark or TVL to see my signal get back in on DeFi Llama. Morpho, I want to see the pain continue and us start to develop a swooping pattern for Bitcoin. And then everyone realizes, oh, wait, it's almost like the elite class that runs the Lizard News that told me that we're going to have the literal end of the world lied to us again. And I'm sitting here holding my schlong, watching the markets start to move back to the upside in the next few months. I think that's going to happen. As the fear plays out, the fear is probably going to play into Morpho too. And I could see us coming down to a $50 billion, God, we're almost there right now, though, $53 billion TVL. God, I might have to buy this damn thing right now. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's check out the chat. Silver's dumping. Let's go check out Silver. I've been kind of laughing. I was talking to a buddy. I will say this, being normal sounds more terrifying than being in crypto right now. I was talking to a buddy of mine that I worked alongside in 2020, 2019. You know, I was sitting there with my crypto bags. He was sitting there with his silver bags. Even with the recent silver pump, life outside of learning how to make money in crypto sounds absolutely terrifying to me. Absolutely terrifying. So let's go look at silver. You guys are almost going to get me going into the weeds of those traditional markets looking at this thing. All right, let's take a look at this crash. This crash of crashes. Bam. Man, oh man, oh man, oh shivets. So the money flow has hit a level. I don't think we've, oh my God. Okay. So the last time we hit money flow levels like this on silver was 1979. 1979. Now, let's look at something because stagflation's here. It's, you know, the economists won't admit it till it's too late. That's why you follow me, because I call this shit out before it happens. August of 79 is where you started to hit that 54 mark, right? August of August of 79, silver can still move. Silver can still move. When you see stagflation actual, really crazy stuff can happen. So, yeah, this is a crash, blah, blah, blah. I think simply tapping the previous 52 mark, tapping this little bull flag here, might be enticed. This is pretty hilarious, though, to see silver holders experience altcoin style flash crashes down about 45% over the course of a few weeks. Honestly, here's the thing about silver. Silver is a much quicker raw material to use in AI and robotics than copper because it can send signals quicker than copper, right? I don't know if you were there, Jump Man. I jumped ship with like 60 cents, 65 cents on Arrow. It's for personal reasons, though. I'm revamping a house. I wanted a TRD Sequoia. I did it for me. Okay. I did it for me. And I just felt like the market was feeling weird back there. So got it out of the way. I've seen a lot of pain since that happened. And now I'm kind of mapping out the other charts here. In this time frame, I will say, when I see fear at a 5, the first and foremost thing that I want is Bitcoin in the crypto markets. And I am actively buying and mapping out some really good stocks as well that you guys probably don't have patience to sit and listen to. But I am buying Bitcoin spot stocks that have involvement with where I see the economy going. And once I start to see us swooping back up in Bitcoin's price and that fear and greed and that kind of rush back in, fundamental projects are all I'm interested in. I am not going to be interested or even willing to cover memes ever again. I'm not going to be covering the vaporware projects. I am choosing violence on things that make no sense, that literally deserve to go to zero. There is no reason for us to have 29 million altcoins. There is not. We don't need 29 million altcoins. Time to dump like clockwork. God, real quick, we got to check in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is feeling downtrendy today. What are we at? 60, 65, 9. Ooh, boy. What I really want us to see is coming into the guts, and I see 54. I could see 54 and then start to round our way back up. I absolutely could see that happening. Now, I do want to take one more look at something here. The head and shoulders. Head and shoulders. So this has been, that actually comes down to basically where I'm kind of looking for, mid to low 50s. I'm buying this whole range, though, for the next few months. I am buying this whole range. People will call me an idiot the whole way through. The same thing happened in March of 2020. The same thing, same sentiment, blah, blah, blah. You're going to lose your life savings, right? You better put it into the dollar. You better sit in savings because things could get so much worse. I'm a prepper. I'm a dude that I don't just love the two-way. I identify as a hard iron good. Okay. So I am not going to sit here biting my nails about the end of the world. Instead, I'm going to move with violence, velocity, and precision on entry points into my favorite projects and crypto, because I've done this a couple times. I'm not scared. And I want to know from you guys, are you out there actively buying, or are you waiting for this thing to just simply go to zero so that your pain can be done? I want to know from you guys in an earnest fashion, because this is the time frame where legends can be made, right? The old saying is, if you don't shake up the boat, no one will remember your name. And this is a time frame where everyone's telling you it's going to zero. There's nothing to do here. Just be a little bit more based than the mainstream media wants you to be. Okay, be a little bit more based. And when I'm out here, I'm not a financial advisor. When I'm out here buying, I am putting that crypto straight on my Arculus, straight to cold storage. We're in a season of potential failures in exchanges. I go into the exchange, buy the Bitcoin, put it on an Arculus. That is what I do. Stay based. I'll see you real soon.
We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.